Hey vlog! So, happy December. It's December 1st. I'm here by the Christmas tree because, you know, it's fun and festive. And got a couple of things to show you guys today. So the first thing, I finally got the Winnie the Pooh all the way done. So I can back up enough. There we go. Got the legs and the little tail. And I finally got the Velcro in here so that you can take out the battery pack and replace the batteries if needed. It's, I definitely, when sewing on the Velcro, realized like, hand sewing is not my strength. Much better at crocheting. But I'm pretty pleased with how it's turned out. And I have some leftover yarn that I'm thinking of maybe making a little blanket to go with it, or maybe like a lovey. I don't know if I can make a full blanket because I don't have the patience. I'm really bad. We actually went and played D&D last night with some friends, and their 11-year-old daughter like just finished a couple days ago like a huge blanket, and she was using, I think, medium weight yarn and like a 6.5 millimeter hook, and I was just like, there's no way. I just couldn't do it. I have no patience for blankets, but I was very impressed with her. Anyway, so the other thing I've been working on is the large amigurumi elephant. So that was the first pattern that I ever put out, and with all of the like hook changes and way that I've crochet changes that have taken place, I needed to go through it again. And so last night while we were playing D&D, I made one of the ears, which my dog ate. Was not happy when I found that. And in order to get the crochet part to be big enough to fit the fleece cutouts, I actually had to add another row. So there are 8 rows on this one. And I had also started working on the head, and I just started into the body, and it was, all of this is using the 8 millimeter hook, which is what I've switched to for my projects. And like the head was way smaller than it should have been, and like everything was just off. And so, kind of as an experiment, I went ahead and I made the second ear, but I used a 10 millimeter hook, and the exact same size of fleece, and it worked out like perfectly with the 7 rows. So with that knowledge in mind, I went ahead and I completely tore out the elephant that I had made thus far, and I have started on it again. So I'm just right here where I'm about to, I've got the hole for where the trunk is going to go. Up here in the next couple of rows, I'm going to start stuffing it. And so I think, I mean, if you're new to my vlog channel, you might not know this, but kind of the backstory on this is the elephant was the first pattern that I released in March of this year, and I've gone through like a lot of growth and change over this last year when it comes to my crocheting, because I had actually made my very first elephant with a 15.75 millimeter hook, and I also yarned under when crocheting versus yarning over, and so that made the the stitches really tight, even though I was using such a massive hook. And so I've made lots of changes. I now crochet where I yarn over, which makes for a looser stitch. And so I've switched to an 8mm hook. And I thought that when I made the official switch to an 8mm hook, I had 3 patterns out. I had the elephant, the snowy owl, and the panda. And so I thought just changing that for the panda, just saying use an 8mm hook, meet this gauge, wouldn't be an issue, but it has been, unfortunately. And it like makes me a little bit nauseous knowing that I have work out there that is not like that people can't follow the pattern and make it work. And so I apologize. I'm learning. I've learned a lot over this year, and thankfully there will be some mistakes that I shouldn't ever have to repeat. But because the elephant was the first one I ever did, it's really had some problems, which is too bad. Anyhow, so all of this to say, I'm working on testing my own elephant so that I can make sure that any changes that need to be made to the pattern will be made. And honestly, at this moment, clearly I haven't gotten that far. Like I've got this much of the head, I've got one ear. I'm gonna have to rip out the other one and do it with a 10mm hook. And I've got the legs done. So I still have a little ways to go, but at this moment, it's looking pretty good. Like I think the hook size up to a 10mm, and then I'm not sure exactly what gauge is going to be. I'm gonna have to check that. But once I update that, I think that pattern will be good. There might be some adjusting of the fleece, but I think it'll be relatively minor. But I mean, it has to happen. These updates and changes need to happen so that the pattern can work. Let's see, update in pattern world, the alpaca is still being tested. I am so close to getting the whale done. I have to, this is kind of a silly thing that happened, but I have to make a tutorial for getting the fins together, because one of my testers came back saying that when she tried to join them together, she couldn't like not get a hole. Like no matter what she did, there was always a hole in her stitches. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. I'll just make a tutorial. Well, now I can't get it to work without having a hole in the middle. And I've made like I've made the whale tail at least like 3 times. And now I can't do it. And so yeah, that's kind of driving me crazy. I'm gonna have to figure it out, make a tutorial, and then, you know, share it. But that's the whale. Like, so as soon as I get that done, I have like one more picture to take of the tail when it's completely finished, and then that pattern is done and ready to publish. And the baby elephant is what I've been working on a little bit in my spare time, trying to get that pattern ready to be tested. So yeah, that's kind of where things are. It's the current state of affairs over here. So before I go, I do have a question for everyone out there, because in a lot of ways I'm not the most experienced crocheter. I really enjoy designing, but there's a bunch that I don't know, which is, I mean, just the truth. But when it comes to gauge, all I've ever seen is people saying like exact numbers of stitches by exact numbers of rows. And in my work, I've seen that it fluctuates a little bit. It's kind of like between 9 and 10 stitches and between 8 and 9 rows. is what it's kind of working out to lately. And so I'm wondering, like, do you guys know? Is it okay? Or like, have you ever seen any patterns that say like, you know, 9.5 stitches by 8.5 rows? Or is it always exact? And like, how much would you say, because like I know gauge plays a huge role in crocheting, but like if you're off a little bit, does it like, does it affect you too much? Or, I mean, I've heard some people say like they like playing with gauge because then they can kind of make things a little bit more their own. And so I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts are on gauge, what you guys have seen, what you guys know. I love learning and getting to know things better, and so any feedback or comments you guys have on that, I would really appreciate. Because this is my swatch from the other night. I made it extra long just so that I could, I think I did like 13 or 14 stitches just to see. But on this one, like if I count at the bottom, it's like definitely like 10 stitches by 9 rows. But then kind of if I start counting in here where it's a little bit looser naturally, it's more like, you know, 9 stitches by 8.5 rows. Or like sometimes I'll measure on my finished animals and kind of try and decide like how I was stitching for it. Anyway, so I'd love to know what you guys know on that. So this is probably enough rambling from me for today. So take care, you guys, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye!